thanks for joining me today to talk about Microsoft's recent release wave for Dynamics 365 Business Central.
Morning. Yes, it's certainly always an exciting time for anyone in the Business Central community when we've got some new features to get our hands on.
Yeah, so what have we got in this release that's going to delight our users?
Well, let's have a look. I'll just share my screen. So, and one of the main benefits of Business Central in the cloud is that all of these features will become available for customers without having to lift a finger, effectively. So yeah, here we are. If you can see my screen, okay. This is version 21, and the first thing I would like to point out is the changes that they've made to the app bar. That is this part of the application up here. You can see here we've got a new feature called the company switcher. So in the past, you'd have to go to my settings, change company, a few click. Now we can just click here, and there we go. There is the list of all your companies. So it's simple as clicking up at the top here, and then let's say I want to swap to my UK company. Over we go. What it's doing in the background is updating your settings as well. So next time you go in, it'll kind of remember the last company you chose.
Okay, perfect. So definitely much easier to navigate between companies then. I like that. So there's some other sections there that I can see. What are they?
Yeah, exactly. So the different sections you're seeing here are actually the different environments. Depending on your setup, you might have some sandboxes, or you might have additional production environments if you've got businesses, in different countries. So, I mean, this is a real game changer, because in the past, to get onto the different environments or sandboxes, you'd basically have to get, IT to send you the link. But now you can simply see them all with one click. Very handy. And not only that, we've got a few other options as well. People that do work with multiple companies, one of the common things you want to do is maybe have two companies open in two different tabs. So yeah, they've given us that option as well. On the switch button, we've got this little drop down on the button, gives you a couple more options. So I can swap over to the US company, but keep the old company open and just open it up in a fresh tab. There we go. So now I can just happily flick between my two companies, whatever it is I'm working on.
And I can see the company badges are also bigger.
Yes, yeah. So the company badges are now located up on the app bar. They've increased the character limit up to 6 now, so you can get a little bit more description in there. Same sort of set of colors and whatnot that we had before. With it on the app bar, though, it is now visible all the time, no matter what. Whereas in the past, sometimes, depending on which page you might be looking at, you sometimes lost that visibility of the app bar. And, certainly when you're working in multiple companies, being able to see at a glance with color and a short code which company you're working in, can save you from posting that journal in the wrong company.
So a small change, but a big benefit.
Absolutely. And they didn't just stop there. Another one that is, it's made me super happy is often when you are swapping between companies, you're doing a particular task. You might be reviewing customers or whatever it is. And then you want to look at that list in the other company. So it's a case of, open the other company, click on customers again. But they've thought about that one. So if I wanted to swap to the US company and look at the customers there, whatever page I'm in, it's going to give you that third option now on the company switcher, which is open in new tab and go to same list. So again, little changes just to make take out the frustrations of your day.
Yeah. So what else have you got for us?
Okie dokie. Well, one last little thing to say on the company switcher. If you're a fan of keyboard shortcuts, then happy days, because Control O will open up the bar. You can start typing in anything from the list. So let's say we wanted to go to sales. Okay, and then press enter, bang, swap it over. So, it's taken that company switching down to a few seconds.
Excellent.
Okie dokie. Yeah, so what else have we got? The next one let's have a look at is the what's called the action bar. And in this release, they've renamed it to the modern action bar. Okay. So let's go and have a look at some sales invoices for this one. Oops. Let's go to sales invoices. There we go, bang. Alrighty, so yeah, you can see here. So they've basically done a big tidy up. Okay, a lot of the action bars. Sometimes you had the same action in different areas of the action bar, and they've given it a good a good freshen up. They've also introduced these new drop-down buttons, a bit like we saw on the company switcher. So you can see here in the invoices list, we've got the post action here visible, but with the drop-down next to that button, you've got a bunch of other features that are around in that sort of functionality of the system. Let's go and have a look at an actual invoice. Okay, so we've loaded up this one, and what they've introduced, they're bringing the whole Microsoft ecosystem is kind of converging. So we're moving towards more of an M365 type ribbon. So we've got the Home tab now, all right, and so they put the most common features in there. One of the biggest benefits is that by default the actions are visible. Something I would click every single time I'm gone into a new company would be to pin the buttons. Don't have to worry about that anymore. They've made that default. Tiny little change, but it's made me really happy. And the other thing to say about the modern action bar, they've moved a few things. They've moved things around, but you should be able to. You can still find them by clicking on the main search, but they have also made it more customizable. Whereas in the past you were quite limited on what you could do with the buttons. Now you can pretty much do almost anything you like. So let's say, for example, I'm a big fan of preview posting, and I wanted to make that just super easy to find. I can effectively personalize that, and let's say I want to put that right on the top here, right on the main action bar, the high level. So just drag it up, click done, and there we go. And that works across the system. And with the role, with customizing role centers, you could roll that out for an entire team with just a few clicks as well.
I think what we're seeing here is a lot of small changes, but actually the changes are going to improve flexibility for the users and also just make their day a little less frustrating.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I completely agree with that. It's making that user experience that much quicker and slicker.
Okay, great. So what's next?
Okie dokie. So let's carry on with keeping the finance team happy, and we're going to talk about reports. So this is another feature. When I saw this, I was really super pleased. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked this in the past, and again, it's going down the road of making the system more flexible, just giving clients the options to use the system as they would like, and that is the ability to pick a report layout on the fly.
Okay, so can we see that in action?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. So let's stick on the sales invoices. So let's say, for example, you wanted to do print a draft invoice.
Yep.
In the past, you would click to print out the report. Maybe you want to email it or PDF it. And the setup of what the layout you would use would simply be in the background. Now, every single report layout dialog has got this report layout chooser, which simply means that for whatever you're dealing with at that moment in time, maybe you need a layout that's got some different logos on it, or it's some different colors or branding, whatever the case may be. And there's many different reasons that you'd might want to do this. You can just simply click the assist edit, swap to the layout that's been set up for you, and then bang, you can do that on the fly, making life very easy.
So invoicing made simple. I love it.
Let's hope so.
So I think we've got time, Andy, for one more of your highlights from this release wave.
Okie dokie. Yeah, so one more. Let's have a think. I think the next one, let's stick on with the report layouts.
Okay.
So they have introduced Excel report layouts a while ago. I'm just going to swap to my Cronus Sales North for this one. And within this release, there is the option to load back in an Excel layout, a custom Excel layout, and report layouts. Designing the layouts. Sometimes in the past it's been a bit tricky, but this one is like 5 clicks. Anyone can do it. Honestly, it's super easy, and one of the main things that makes this so great is that businesses often want, that's the standard report. They want to make sure that if different departments are talking to each other, or they pull a report off the system, or they crunch some numbers from the system, that they're on the same page. They're looking at the same, sales for that period, and they don't have two different versions of the truth. So it's a really simple feature, but it's really powerful to give that consistent. I downloaded it off the system. That report is the truth. So let's have a look at that. Let's go to the chart of accounts for this one. So the report I'm going to pick here is the GL register, which is really a pretty lengthy, data-heavy report. It's just going to give us every single transaction in the system effectively. Now I could preview this on a PDF, and it's hundreds of pages long. But what I'm going to do is I want to do an analysis in my mind. I want to create a standard report around, let's say, sales. So I'm going to take the GL register report. I will send it to Excel, data only. All right, and that's going to download me this Excel file. So let's have a quick look. All right, so here is the Excel file. It's a massive block of data. We've got 3,000 or so rows, and that's just in the demo company. In normal companies, you'd have maybe had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of rows in there. You're going to need to analyze this with a pivot table. So here's one I made earlier. So here is that exact same report, and I've just done a very, very basic pivot chart. I've decided to let's have a look at the income of product sales and categorize by region. Let's, as an example. Now, of course, this is just made up on the spot, but you might have a number of different charts you want to recreate every time, and you want to, instead of saving this or emailing it to someone, and then it's not as easily updatable, we can just simply load all the different charts you've done in this Excel file. We can just simply load this back into the system, and then when we print out the report, it's going to give you all those charts, but with the updated data. So how do you do that, you might ask? Well, here we go. So we go back to the report, GL register, and then again we're using the report layout selector here. So when I go in here, as you can see here, I was having a little bit of a play around with this one, but let's load in yet another one. So we're going to ask to do a new layout, sales version 2, let's say. We choose that Excel file, the one that you've put all your pivot charts into. All right, and that's going to load it into the system. It's now available across the entire business. So the next time anyone in the business would come to print that report or output that report, they can choose the assist edit here on the report, pick a particular Excel report that you've created, bang, and then then you can just download it, and it's going to give you that exact same Excel file, the data, but with all your charts in it.
Well, I can see why you think the finance teams are going to be delighted with this new feature. So yeah, excellent. Well, I think that's a great example to finish on, Andy. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on this release wave, and I look forward to speaking to you for 2023 release wave. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Siobhan. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.